tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Our guests waiting to be profiled are Peter Forster and author John Fitzgerald. Director Peter Forster has directed over 30 plays in the United States and in Britain, including Nobel Prize winner Derek Walcott's pantomimes. He was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa, where he earned his first 2 degrees, then came to the University of Illinois for a master's degree. After you got that, did you go to England to train?
Yes, I did.
And why did you go to England?
Well, I wanted to direct in the theatre, and I wanted to train in London, where it was my feeling that the most good theatre was available to someone like me at the time.
But you were in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had Second City and David Mamet's things,
Right.
all those things.
Right.
Wasn't that enough?
Yes, but my family's all English, and perhaps I just wanted to travel more, you know. I mean, I had lived in Africa, I had lived a little bit here, and I think I just wanted to be where my sense of my own theatrical roots were.
So when you took your training, totally in directorship, right?
Totally
in
yes.
Is there a difference between what you were seeing in America as to what you were learning in England?
Well, the theatre has a different place culturally in England to the place it has here, you know, and so yes, I think so. I mean, the theatre, the American theatre is different from the English theatre, you know.
Well, when you're directing in England, like you've done so many times, and you're directing in America, let's compare. What is the difference? Is it a feeling? What is it?
First thing is, the literature is different. You know, the English playwrights are writing different kinds of plays than the American playwrights. Or let's say the European playwrights are writing different kinds of plays from the plays that the American playwrights are writing.
But you can be directing English or European playwrights here.
And isn't that interesting? Because you're doing the European literature with the American actors for an American audience.
Yeah.
You see, I mean, and that's the wonderful thing about working in the theatre, isn't it? You're working with a writer and the writer's literature. You're working with a group of actors, each of which comes to the process with all kinds of experience, and you're playing to a particular audience. And the audiences are different country to country, city to city. So it's always a fascinating combination of many things all the time.
Well, that takes me to when you were directing at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes.
Which is, tell us a little bit about the Fringe, and then I'm going to ask you.
The Fringe Festival at Edinburgh every year is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plays from all over the world.
From all over.
Played to an audience of thousands of people from all over the world.
Oh, as well.
And played 24 hours a day. So when you go and direct a play, played 24 hours a day, these plays, you see. So when I was there, one year that I was there, I had simultaneous play on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Is that right?
Yeah, 2 different pieces of work. So it's just round the clock, hundreds and hundreds of it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
It's kind of like a festival. It's outdoors,
a festival
right?
for 1 month.
Yeah.
And well, it's outdoors, it's indoors, it's everywhere. And everything is converted to a theatre space for that month, really. Pubs, rooms which otherwise would not be, you know, everything is a theatre for a month.
That's the difference then, going into London to the Bloomsbury Theatre, say.
Right.
And you directed there.
I have worked there,
So
yes.
there's two different things right there within a couple of hours
Right.
airtime.
Exactly, exactly.
So how did that, I mean, the Bloomsbury Theatre stage affect you?
The Bloomsbury Theatre is a nice big theatre, as you know. And a big proscenium arch theatre, and so you're working in a very, and I directed a David Mercer play. Actually, I
tell us
directed a
about that.
play there that he had originally written for the radio. And then it was done on television, and I happened upon this script and loved it, and we did it for the theatre. So it had a, you know, it had many different lives.
So
by
did
the
you
time-
have to interpret it a different way since you did
No, I
know
did
it on the
exa-
theatre?
I did exactly as he wrote it.
Oh, but it was on the radio. Was it exactly as he wrote it on the radio?
The text was exactly the same.
Oh, so you just directed
So
it like that?
yes, and it, you know, it had locations which, of course, were not realized on the radio except through the auditory stimulus. But yeah,
Oh,
we did
right.
it. We did it exactly. So it was interesting, you know, to take a piece that had been written for another medium first, but it worked beautifully.
And he's an English writer?
He is.
Okay,
he is
so
an
then
English
you have
writer.
David Mamet,
Yes.
whose work you've
Yeah,
done.
except I did him in London. See.
Oh, that's
so,
it. So how did that work?
Interesting, you know, because, I mean, when you do an English play for an American audience or vice versa, you must concern yourself very strongly with the Americanness of it or the Englishness of it in a way which you don't when you do an English play for an English audience.
Well, what about the
And vice-
audience? Do they understand Mamet?
Oh, yeah.
They did.
Oh, yes. They loved it. It was actually a very, I was working with a young company, and we did a production of Sexual Perversity in Chicago, which of course is almost an iconic Mamet piece.
And it's so specific, though.
And so you've got to make it, you know, doing an American play, a Mamet play,
Yes.
set in Chicago, in London. You've got to be very clear to strike all the American Chicago Mamet notes in a way which you wouldn't have. It's like if you were doing Tennessee Williams in England.
Exactly. And the dialogue, of course, is so American. And I guess
Absolutely.
that's what happens with the other writers. The dialogue becomes what they are, English, Italian, whatever.
And two,
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that so much.
yeah, and when you work, let's say with, as I am now, with American actors on an English piece, you know, they start in a completely different place because the first thing they have to work with is an English dialect. You know, so they have to start thinking differently than they do in their own. I mean, you start in a different place and you inevitably get to a different place because we're doing it, we're playing it English rather than simply doing the play the way we live.
Well, let's talk about that play. That play is a new play.
It is.
Safety.
It's a play called Safety. It's a fascinating play.
It's at the McCadden Place Theatre, and it's written by Chris Thorpe.
Chris Thorpe.
So he's English.
He's a young English writer.
So did they bring you in because you had learned to direct in England, because your training
and
was
you know-
there, really?
I suppose, and I've often, all my career, been offered foreign plays.
So there,
You know,
but maybe because you took your training there,
Yes.
you look at things from a different.
Well, and I grew up, you know, in South Africa. I
Right.
lived in England. My first theatre work was in England. So, yes, I'm clearly foreign in a way.
in that respect,
You know.
this play is produced by the Closet Space Theatre, which
Yes.
is pretty interesting. What their focus is. Tell us a little bit about that, and then talk
Closet
about the
Space
play.
Theatre is a producing organization in Los Angeles that is concerned with edgy new material and concerned in several ways with many things. One is social issues. The second is the middle-aged experience, you know, adult experience, rather than, let's say, young adult experience. And
Secrets.
secrets.
Aren't they
And the
secrets?
power of secrets to destroy. It's a fascinating thematic concern with this.
Do you think that the secrets come into play because this company is looking at middle age,
or let's say
they've matured to that point of middle age?
And really isn't the most fascinating material the secret material in life, in art, You know, if you think about the great American writers, particularly Tennessee Williams, the air in his plays is thick with secrets. You know,
So
it's
tell
wonderful.
tell us about Safety.
Safety is, well, this guy, Chris Thorpe, is very interesting because he writes plays about our cultural desensitization to violence and to war.
Oh, that's another thing that they look at, right?
Yes, and this is, and believe me, this play has got plenty of secrets in it. But his concern, and Safety is the middle of a trilogy of plays dealing with this issue, and had its premiere actually at the Edinburgh Festival.
Oh,
5
it
years
did.
ago.
Oh, so you
Yes.
were familiar with the work.
I didn't know this play until
Oh.
a couple of years ago. I didn't see it in Edinburgh. It's had one American production in New York, but this is
Oh,
the West
right.
Coast premiere. It's a very interesting, and of course,
Well, then how do you get your people to speak with an English
oh,
accent?
absolutely.
Yes?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Because that is the world of the play. You know, that is the world of the play. It's set in the north of England, and it's based on an incident there. Yeah. Oh yeah. They do it absolutely English. Yeah.
And so it'll be running for quite some
Runs from
time.
the
And do you
12th of January.
stay? Do you stay?
No. Typically, your director is off the payroll after opening night.
Oh, is that what happens? Oh, I didn't realize that. So, but you stay, get through everything. Do you come back and check it?
Oh, certainly I will.
Because it's your child? Because you go back to Chicago.
I go back to Chicago. Yes.
And you live in Chicago.
I do.
You're a member of the performance faculty at the theater department. What does that mean?
There's a university in Chicago, DePaul University.
Yes, DePaul.
Which has a theatre department, a theatre school, and I'm
Right.
a faculty member there. I'm an acting teacher on the faculty of the theatre school. in
Do you
Chicago.
act?
Yes, I have done some acting.
Do you? But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you're an acting. You're a performer.
No,
That-
but I've always been an acting teacher. I mean, I started teaching acting
I see.
almost as soon as I came out of drama school.
So when you direct,
Yes.
you're actually teaching your
Well,
actors.
hopefully not. Hopefully they can do, you know. But no, although the jobs are related. You've got to, I mean, script analysis issues and scene analysis issues, and, you know, there's a crossover between teaching, acting, and directing.
So do you teach them from that point of view? I mean, do you direct from that point of view, how to break down
Yes,
things?
certainly, but every play is so different that you find yourself intuitively starting every play in a different place.
And with this play, the same thing?
It's a really interesting play because, yes,
Can you start with the secrets and then work out? Or do
sure,
is that
you sure can. Or, you know, or you can work on the surface of the play and allow the secrets to boil underneath. There's so many ways. And the play, just the way the play is written, will have an invitation in it for you to work this way or that way.
For you, the director,
Yes.
that's what I was going to say. When you
Every
talk
play's
about
different.
all this stuff going on, how do you know where to start?
You follow your instinct.
That's
You
it.
do. Because, you know, I mean, it's a very hard question. How do you work as
Yes.
a director? Well, every play has its own sort of mystery and its own way you have to go to it, you know? So the answer to the question, how do you work, would be, I don't know.
Well, we know how you answered the questions today. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Peter Forster. And don't go away. We'll be right back with author John Fitzgerald. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Author John Fitzgerald was born and raised in Los Angeles. He earned degrees from UCLA and the University of West Los Angeles School of Law. He's a poet and an attorney. Do those two work together, John?
Yes, they do.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. The fact that I'm a lawyer helped me write both this Springwater and Primate.
And Primate, yeah. Springwater, which we have here, you call a novel in verse.
Right.
What does that actually mean?
Well, in this case, it means that it's a novel in that it has a continuing plot, and it's 53 separate poems, each of which tells the story of
I see.
Joe Smith, the character who is a serial killer, who and you're getting to see a little of his mental life.
Oh, I see. How did you choose the subject? How did you find the story?
Well, in law school, I read a lot of cases, and I was interested in the rationale that people who murder people, they come up with an excuse in their mind. They think that
For the reason?
yeah, they have.
I mean, to do it?
Right. In their mind, they have a rationalized explanation for it. I actually came upon a case not connected with crimes at all. In fact, it was in wills and trusts. And it was the case where several years ago somebody had poisoned bottles of Tylenol. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that.
And what they did is they poisoned the Tylenol and put it back in the store, and people were buying the Tylenol, and people were taking, and
it was laced with cyanide,
it was
wasn't
laced
it?
with
Yeah.
cyanide. And I came upon this case in wills and trusts. It's a very sad story, really. There's a newly married couple on their honeymoon, and they get a phone call and are told that the groom's brother has died unexpectedly. So they come back on their honeymoon. They have no idea what killed him. As they come back from their honeymoon and they go to the funeral, and after the funeral, they have a reception at the home of the dead brother. And both the husband and wife take the same Tylenol, and they both die.
This is in your case? This was a case?
This is an actual case, yeah, and in wills and trusts, because the question was whether when a couple newly married both have a will, which one takes effect if they die within a short time of each other.
That's what I was wondering. Why was it in there instead of in torts or some
Right.
some other class?
That was the question.
And so what'd you do? Did you research it?
No, I read that case and just remembered it. It stuck with me. I thought it was a sad story, so it stuck with me a long time. And the thing that it has in common with spring water is that the killer in this puts poison in 10 bottles of spring water and ships it to Los Angeles. And he works at the spring water plant factory in Tacoma in shipping, and he ships the bottles to Los Angeles, and people are drinking the water, and it has an undetectable poison called sodium monofluoroacetate, which is a real poison that they use on livestock ranches. They put them in the collars on the sheep so that if a coyote kills the sheep, the coyote will eat the poison, ingest the poison, and die.
Well, that's interesting.
And the character, he searches the internet and finds that poison, which is exactly what I did to find it.
I was going to ask you where your research was.
The character does what I really did in real life, and he comes upon that poison and puts it in the water, and people are drinking it and dying, and nobody knows why.
Have you always written?
Yes, always.
Why did you go to law school then instead of just starting a career as a writer?
For the money. Yeah.
Did you think? Were you thinking that it would be a good basis for writing, or?
No, I didn't think that. I was more of a poet, really, and I got a scholarship to law school and couldn't really turn it down. So.
And you worked as a postman for some time. How long did you do that?
I did that for about 10 years, and I put myself through law school while I was working as a postman.
Did you feel any dangers from being a postman? Were there any things that you would use in story writing when you would come home at night?
Well, this story...
It was also, was it?
In this story, I used some of that background, and because I was first a mailman, but after I passed the bar, I was a lawyer for the Postal Service.
Oh, you were. So the two went together.
Right.
Oh,
So
I see.
I'm probably maybe the only mailman who's skipped from a level 5 to a level 21 with skipping everything in between. And so I became an employment attorney for the Postal Service. And so the character in this story becomes a mailman after the spring water plant closes down, because they figure out about the water and nobody wants to buy it. So.
Well, talking about water takes me to one of your first poems that you wrote, and you said it was about being a picky eater.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, I have, it's not the first poem I wrote, but it's the first one ever published.
Oh, it was?
That was the first one. It was published in a journal in 1991. Called Westward, which is now defunct. But it was about my eating habits and how I don't really like very many varieties of foods. Yeah.
And so it was actually a winner to get published, right?
Yeah.
But going from food now to, you have a dual citizenship,
Right.
Irish and American. How does that happen?
My father's Irish, so.
And you can get a.
Well, anyone who is born of an Irish parent is automatically an Irish citizen.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so you have a passport.
I have an Irish passport.
Okay, so from that eating, let's go to the foods that you were very picky about, to
yeah.
the Irish and the salt mining.
Oh, right.
You've already you've written some things about that too.
Yeah, well, it's the salt mining that's very interesting. I became interested in how important salt is to civilization, and believe it or not, it's in ancient times, a very great deal of energy was spent trying to mine for salt, and the ancient Celtic people were great innovators in the mining for salt, and they actually started a lot of the salt mines that were later taken over by Rome and expanded into large operations. So the Celtic people were innovative, but the Romans were country builders.
But they knew how to preserve food.
Salt was used to preserve food. That was one of its importance in civilization. That's even to this day, like we still like bacon and ham, and that's because they were cured with salt, and we didn't before refrigeration. All these meats were cured with salt. So
we've all added something to civilization, haven't
everyone's
we?
added something to civilization. Yeah.
You wrote another novel called Primate, which is pretty interesting, because I think there was a Broadway play called Primate. Did you know about that?
I didn't know about that. No, that's a surprise to me. But
so you didn't write the Broadway play?
No, I didn't write that, unfortunately.
But the story seem to be similar. Just give us a storyline of Primate.
The storyline of Primate is there's a chimpanzee that is kidnapped. You could call it kidnapped from Africa and brought to an island off the Florida Keys by a company who does research. And in the process of the kidnapping, the ape's family is all killed. And the daughter of the CEO of this company becomes a primatologist, and she wants to try to teach bonobos, which are the closest animals to humans. She wants to try to teach them sign language. And in the process of trying to teach them, this baby chimpanzee learns sign language very well.
Because he's young,
just
probably,
because,
right?
Yeah, the other ones don't pick it up so well, but the baby becomes like, you could call it a prodigy at speaking in sign language. And years later, the chimpanzee sees the person who killed his family and remembers it, and he attacks the guy and knocks him out a two-story window, and he messes him up, but doesn't kill him. And in the subsequent trial to determine whether the property of this company, the ape, should be destroyed, they allow him to testify using sign language on his own behalf, and he gets off on a.
So we're back to law school.
Back to law.
Back to the law school.
Yeah.
You've written screenplays. Is this Primate?
Primate
gonna
is
be a movie?
Yeah, I've had a couple meetings with some producers who asked me to turn it into a screenplay. So I'm
Are you
like
writing a
2/3 down.
screenplay?
Yes.
How is it? Is it different than writing your, I mean, did it come easily to you?
Well, I bought the software. That helped a lot. So.
And what does that do? What does that help? How does that help you?
It knows how to do the formatting, which is
So,
the
like,
main thing.
enter, leave, that kind of stuff?
Well,
I don't know
it's
what it
more
does.
like it has like the headings, like scene, character, and then it formats what the difference between the narration aspects and the dialogue and so forth.
So that helps you write faster?
It helps it very much. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So we might be seeing
Hopefully. Yeah.
somebody plays it, maybe the ape playing himself?
Yeah. Well, they have to. They'd have to use more than one ape, I guess, or else animate it somehow.
What do we have for next story ideas coming up?
The thing I'm working on now is it's called The Man Who Knew Everything, and it's still in development. Right?
Do you like writing?
Oh, I love writing. That's my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Well, we have about a minute left. Can you just find a really short poem in here, or does that give us enough time?
Actually, all the poems in here are 32 lines long.
Oh, they're very long.
They're all 32 lines. There's 53 of them. They're all 32 lines. So even though, I mean, 32 lines doesn't sound very much, it takes about, I don't know, 4 minutes to read one.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Well,
so
we don't have 4 minutes
No,
left.
so-
But it's interesting to see how the format is of what
Right,
you were
so-
saying. Who did the cover? Because the cover's
there's
great.
there's an artist in Santa Fe. Her name is Alexandra Eldridge, and she is a wonderful painter. And she's actually had a display or show here in Culver City. But
Did you choose it, or did your
I
publisher choose it?
no, I chose it.
You
I
chose it?
and I chose that particular one. I liked the kind of the way the flower like kind of bends over like that because it seemed like something that needs water to survive on and is kind of wilting and looks like it's dying. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
And we're out of time. Thanks, John, for
My
being a
pleasure.
guest today, and
Thank
good
you.
luck. And thank you for watching Joan Quinn Profiles today. We'll see you next time, and keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. See you next time.